discussed the Alan Bradley stuff, but you know, Art Wolf was the salesman, became district manager, and he hired Bob, the contractor from Summerdale. Hepford. Yeah. But you know, through all this and all the years, many years since the '60s, Art was like, "Hey, come in, you know, maybe get a phone call to me." I was a general manager of a division of corporation in our industry at that time, and said, "I need a job." Can you imagine? 61 or whenever Art got big guy, and me, and then however many years later, I hired him to work for me out in California, and he was just he was as spunky as ever, and I needed him because when they fired the guys that were running that division, you know, they hired me. They did move me out there, and I needed a marketing guy because I was doing sales, marketing, GM, all that. And damn, if Art Wolf didn't pop out of nowhere.
What year was that? 90s?
I was out there from 79 to 84, I think, something like that. Yeah, he was out of work. And but they were, you know, when ITE come in, this might jog some of you guys with some stories. Gabe Tenaglia, Paul Young, I remember those guys. Ed Furlan, they hired a guy. He got killed. He was driving up towards Williamsport in his red convertible. He crashed. He was killed. He moved into Seneca Street. I remember that.
Oh, sure.
And you know, Jimmy, I brought him over to the Boys Club too because he was a single guy in order to go. I said, "Well, I work at the Boys Club a couple nights a week. Come on over." And he was telling me how great he was. Well, he wasn't as great as he said. And you'll admit that you and I and Ham Hafer and somebody else, we played some 2-on-2 basketball over there. So here we are again. Ray Lau at Youngstown too. I had him as a rep.
How about Kuzik? Was Kuzik around your time?
Bill Kuzik. I talked to him and his guy down there when I was hiring reps. And remember Ted Steigerwald? I used to wonder how he would. You know, what do you do, Ted?
You mean Colonel?
Colonel. Once a year, he'd be in the paper with his dinner for the lieutenant. You know.
What was he Sylvania?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he'd come in.
He had the car wash over there on.
He started that.
On Carlisle Pike.
And he wanted us all to get into the Dutch pantry, Dutch chicken.
My brother.
Thankfully, I had no money, so I didn't get in it and didn't lose any. But Ted was just, he'd go back and he'd tip the box, see if there's any lamps in there, write an order, and he just like, I don't know what he did, you know. He never did anything other than that. But yeah, those guys, and the favorite reps were Blyman, Biben, Ray Lau, and J.B. Carell, Jimmy Carell, all those guys. I just about interviewed most of those guys later as my job changed, and so I don't know if one of the things about John Fullerton, I put down major contractors, you know, he had an earpiece. And back in the day, the World Series was played during the day. So if you're lucky your employer left you listen to the portable like you did, Dick, with the radio. Well, John Fullerton walks in, I'm at the desk answering the phone, he walks right there, I said, "Mr. Fullerton, hi." I says, "What's the score?" He didn't know anything about the World Series game. I'm asking him, I thought he had a portable radio in this thing. I thought, oh, I'm fired now for sure. The Haymans, Tony Stylo hanging out there all morning, and Heim and Foley and Ernst and Writers and all those guys that you guys all took good care of and were good customers. I started there at $1.25 an hour, remember that. 10 years later, I left at $1.35. I'm so proud of that. But yeah, I mean, I did this because if you, like Phil with Miller Lite fixtures, he and Phil Stanley would work every night doing those invoicing and bills, and I was almost working every night for overtime and stuff, and Phil was a big sports guy. We'd talk sports. The guy that had Lutron, I remember he was a big sports fan. Who? The guy that had Lutron dimmers. I forget his name. He had real thick glasses, kind of chubby guy. But they were all into the Villanova scene. And also, since I
A lot of good basketball down there.
knew sports, me, Pat, SIM card sponsored us, me and Pat,
Donnie, you
Dad.
had, Donnie.
yeah, Donahue, and
Yeah.
the other guys, the dark-haired guy. But they had tickets for a Villanova game at the Palestra, which they played double headers, and you were this far from the floor, and they were throwing chickens on the floor and all that stuff. And I got included, because I'm not executive there, but I followed sports. So we get out, we get on a train, we get down to Penn Station, we get off, we get picked up or whatever, go to the Palestra, watch the games, and it was a hoot. It was a real hoot. So I was fortunate to be included to go to those games. That was pretty neat.
Yeah, I see a lot of here of Tom and of course our group back then, but I remember a situation, I worked for Bob inside for a while, and he called me to his office, and I really didn't go in the office, I was kind of leaning on the outside, and he was telling me something about a new procedure that we were going to go through, and I said to Bob, I said, is that from the Great White Father? Because these were two peas in a pod, Bob and Tom. And he started smiling, and I said, uh-oh. Turn around here. Here's Tom standing. Oh, we're talking like right now.
Well, I'll tell you, Tom was a good guy, but
He probably laughed with you though.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah.
he always says, when he had someplace, somebody had to be out the Allen Bradley, Bob, you go. Somebody had to go to Chamber of Commerce, Bob, you go. Somebody had to go to the Builders Exchange, Bob, you go. So I was his you go man. And I'll tell you, I was proud to be it.
Well, Tom started to
Yeah.
get gray when he was in his early 30s.
Is that when?
Yeah, the sides anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, there was Helen Schaedler. Those who forget Helen, because Helen was the most straightforward. Called it like it was.
Well, that's funny you say that because
Well, Helen's mother said it like it was.
Yeah.
Up on 3rd Street in the
Mrs.
apartment.
Delaney, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly, she
Yeah.
did. And I'll tell you one thing, if you played golf for you, that was not a gimme. If you played with Helen, nothing was a gimme. You had to hit every putt in
You talk
regardless.
about embarrassment. Helen had a deep voice.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I was answering the phone
Yeah.
one morning, and she called in and asked for Tom. I said, one moment, sir. This is not a sir, this is
Yeah, sit and watch for that, yeah.
She always told it like it was. She was good.
Incidentally, the fellow with the hat here is George Schaedler. I don't know whether anybody knew George.
I knew George.
George.
Who was George?
He ran away from home at the age of 14 and landed up in Sacramento, California.
Wow.
He ran the waterworks
He
down
was
there.
at the waterworks. Took them something like 6 days to come in that particular time. But that's what. Oh, yeah.
George was not in the business at all. He
Well,
was a-
actually, there were 5 brothers because there was a son or brother that died when about 11 years of age, and his name was Francis.
No, I didn't know him. I
Francis
never met
Schaedler.
him. But George, I met George and Bill and
Yep.
Harry, and of course Harry and Andy. But George was nice, and they were all the same. They were all smarts. He was an engineer. He ran, I think, a waterworks out there or something.
Sacramento.
Sacramento, yeah. He was a nice guy. They were all nice. I don't know, Jimmy came along. Well, oh, I'm sorry.
That was the third one. T and W were first.
Yeah.
But, no, they were all nice. And